welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 69. Nice. I am Table for Two, and I am joined by Mellified. What's up, brother?
Hey, man. It's, staying hot here in Texas. I we had our wonderful 4th of July break, and then I got jury duty for a week, and then I got COVID from jury duty for the last 2 weeks. So I've just been getting my butt kicked. Around town.
Yeah, that's not fun, especially like during the middle of summer. I finally I hadn't mowed my lawn in like a month, and so I finally got that thing taken care of, and so I've got like hay going on. So that's an interesting situation to be in, but
yeah, you need a goat.
Yeah, clear. I was about to say I need a goat. Speaking of goats, did you see that? What was it? Goat Simulator 3 is coming out, the pre-utter edition or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's one of our first stories, in fact, and it's on PC though. It's an Epic Store exclusive. I thought, I'm all in on Steam now because of the Steam Deck, and I was very sad to see that. So it is on Xbox though, so I guess I can play it that way.
Nice. Yeah, we'll definitely cover more of that when we do our news segments. But today we're going to talk a little bit about just what's been going on with us with our gaming things. I know that sometimes we mix our news and our gaming stuff, so not to confuse you guys, we'll definitely do the news on the next episode. But yeah, so with you being COVIDified and locked down and stuff like that, what were you planning to pass the time when you weren't,
I was doing like turn-based puzzle stuff a lot because I could kind of drift in and out while I was playing. If I was taking Dayquil to sort of mitigate the symptoms, which meant that I was kind of groggy and basically drunk, because that's what NyQuil and Dayquil are, is 40% alcohol. So basically I was playing some puzzle stuff. Hexseed, I think, is the name of one of them, where it's a Minesweeper style game, but it's on a hex grid, and that really changes the strategy, and they've got some like special tiles that show you how many mines are two spaces away rather than one space, things like that. So it definitely mixes up the gameplay, but they have a series of achievements for it. And one of the achievements is to do each island, they call it, which is probably 30 levels of this without hitting any mines, all in one sitting. And that is just brutal to try to do. So I did manage to do it on the first island, but not the second yet. So I've been slowly working my way through that. Gosh, what else? Well, you were playing some GTA 5, right? Or GTA Online, I guess I should say.
Yeah, they so Rockstar, and it's nuts, man. Like after 10 years, these guys finally made some quality of life updates for the game. And it's just so goofy that it's like we can finally say that they're doing this. Like no one ever thought that Rockstar was actually going to do what they did. But now you can do most, I think, if not all of the money-making stuff in a private instance or a private group with your friends or solo even. Used to be you had to be in a public lobby in order to do, cargo runs or any of that kind of stuff. And they've now made it so that you can do that in a private instance or with your friends in like invite-only lobbies and stuff like that. Which is a welcome change, considering that there's been so many instances over the last many years of like hacking and botting and all kinds of crazy stuff where people like you're trying to do your own thing and then someone teleports you to the top of a building or to some other place on the map while you're in the middle of trying to do stuff, and it can definitely take away from the fun. But yeah, I spent about speaking of really putting in time, I'm looking at my hours played. I've got over 441 hours total on this game, and I put in probably like 6 or so of those hours last night playing with some friends. We were able to do some heists. We were able to do some deliveries and cargo stuff. We griefed each other, but we were having fun doing it because we were friends. You know, it wasn't like a malicious grief. You know, just kind of like, you know, being silly, punching each other in the face kind of things, just like you do.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
You know, but you know, it was great because I was like, wow, this is like if I was playing GTA and I wanted to bring a friend along to experience my storyline or whatever it is. You know, it's finally truly a cooperative game that you can play now with your friends, and that was great. You know, and then we ended the night over at the casino doing stupid things, you know, throwing money away, and it was a good time. So yeah, I applaud Rockstar for finally making those changes, and I hope to see them do the same thing with Red Dead Online, because I think that would drastically improve their player numbers. I think you'd see a lot more people who would want to play the game casually come in and play, because, you know, no one likes to be griefed in games, at least not for long. So,
wow. Well, it's interesting. The news that we will cover in our next show, I guess, but maybe a little preview, is Rockstar announced they're ending support for Red Dead Online, unfortunately.
yeah, that's a shame, really.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like it's to help accelerate GTA 6, where they maybe need some of the team members to work on that. So I mean, there's at least some glimmer of hope there that they could go back to it, but I do agree that giving people the option to play the way that they want is always going to be a positive thing for your player base, it seems to me. You know, letting people play in private lobbies or private servers, you know, that's going to be more fun for a lot of people. So why not allow it? What does it really hurt?
Yeah, and yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up too. It's almost like we're doing some of the news now, because I know, like, with Evolve recently did that too, where they turned on 2K turned on the peer-to-peer servers again for the Evolve game. So
well, Evolve was an interesting thing because it came out as a paid multiplayer game, and then went free to play in their Stage 2 update, and then it died maybe a year later. I mean, it's been a while. I don't quite remember.
Yeah, so the Stage 2 thing, the Stage 2 thing was like a remake, or not necessarily like a remake, but it was like a
revamp
maybe of it, and they did a free release of that. And so if you got Stage 2 for free, you can download and install and play that now online. But if you never bought the original one, you cannot get, because there's an option in Stage 2 where they call it like a beta or whatever, and you can download what they call the legacy version, which is just, you know, the regular Evolve.
Original.
If you got it for free and you never bought that, you still have the option to download that, but it won't let you play it, which I think is kind of goofy. Yeah, we found that out the hard way. Since I never actually bought Evolve, I got the free Stage 2 thing. I can only do Stage 2. So there's that. But hopefully, though, I mean, hopefully this will put, you know, an interest back for 2K, that maybe they'll make at least Stage 2 freely available again for people to get. I mean, it wouldn't really hurt them, because there's, you know, it would garner more interest, and, you know, who knows. But yeah. So I mean, it's really cool to see that some of these studios are at least doing right by the player base, because people will still play these games if they're, you know, still so loved. And for what it's worth, with Rockstar, with Red Dead Online, I actually enjoyed that. Before the hackers got their hands on that one too, I really enjoyed that one a lot. But it's pretty obvious, I think more people are interested in GTA Online than Red Dead. There's, you know,
yeah. Well, and it's had a lot longer to build a player base too.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's what I've been, you know, I started playing that again recently, but I've also been playing, I've got a small local community of friends who've been playing Minecraft, so occasionally I'll play Minecraft with them. But I've been dabbling, continuing more with my Steam Deck, and I've been playing more Knights of the Old Republic 2 on there. I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077, so I've been making my way through that, and it's kind of making me wonder like how long the story is, because I keep playing it and I'm just like, man, this is a really good long story. So I've been enjoying that a lot. I just got done with a story point where you go and find what's his face, the Keanu Reeves character, Johnny.
Oh, Johnny Silverhand.
Yeah, you go and you find his girlfriend, his old former girlfriend, who's like stuck in cyberspace. So I'm kind of in like that part of the game right now.
You're more than halfway, I would guess, probably 2/3.
Interesting.
I think. But it depends, right? Because the main story quest,
side quests.
Yeah, like I probably got to that point and then went off and did 20 hours of side quests before I came back to the story. So, but if you mainline the story, I don't think it's a terribly long, game just for the story. There's just a ton of extra content to explore.
Yeah, which I'm actually dabbling a little bit in. I've actually been enjoying kind of going around and doing, because I like to do some of the completion stuff. I don't think there's been many games I've done 100% in, but which reminds me, I need to get back to Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, because I was working towards 100% completion on that one. That's one I actually do want to try and 100% if I can. Because I've never 100% done a Lego game before, because there's all those like little minifigs that you can get and all the little mini ships that you can unlock and all the different things.
Yeah, the little mini kits, I think they called them in older games, at least. I don't know if it's still.
It's still a thing. So yeah, the mini kits, so I definitely want to get back into that. But back to the Steam Deck a little bit though. I've been dabbling with the Steam Rom Manager and Steam Grid DB. I've been playing around with those things and customizing my Steam experience a lot more. And so the Steam ROM Manager works both on the Steam Deck and on your PC. And what's cool about it is it doesn't just deal with like emulation stuff. They actually have plugins for GOG and Epic and Uplay. And so I was able to input most of my GOG stuff and my Epic stuff and Uplay into my Steam thing, and they even make categories for it, and it's really nice because then you get you can launch everything through your Steam app there, and it pulls down from the Steam Grid like icons,
the key
artwork, yeah, and so that's pretty neat. But then I have a bunch of like I have a category called like third party games, which are all my like one-off installer games, right? Like that don't have like a home. And I've been going through Steam, and there's a plugin you can get for Steam Grid DB where you can actually go and just like click on the plus sign, and it like essentially does like a mapping to your actual Steam account, and it like will download it and apply the artwork for you manually, through manual searching, so without using some other application. So like for example, I found stuff surprisingly for Star Siege. So they have artwork on there for Star Siege, so I was able to click a little button and it applied icons and artwork for Star Siege into my Steam profile. So that was pretty cool. So I've been doing a lot of that too. So I've been like dabbling with old games again, getting Starlancer to work and Freelancer Vanilla, stuff like that. Because
nice,
I'm a sucker for the retro games.
Yeah, for sure. I went through and I had tried to play Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, which was the older Activision title, and it has a really, really big community patch and then like sort of just the essential fixes. and I had put the big community patch on and tried to play it, and I was having a weird texture problem with that particular version of the release. So that got updated, and I cleared it out, reinstalled it, but I haven't had a chance to actually go play it. But I remember so vividly with that game, because it's a first person shooter style game, and you play as all the different clans in the Vampire the Masquerade lore, but they actually did, put some effort into differentiating them, even though there's several different clans. And one of them, the Nosferatu are super ugly and creepy, and so you can't go out in normal human society because you're so deformed. There's another one who's the Malkavan. I'm mispronouncing it horribly, I'm sure, but with them, they're crazy, right? Like they see the world differently than all the other vampire clans, and so your dialogue is completely wackadoo from all the other character clans. And so like some of the quests are radically different because you're not able to like have a normal conversation with people. And so that's why I think that game, has sort of persisted despite all of its flaws, particularly with the released version, is because they did have some, really cool ideas and put some really nice work into it. And I'm guilty of having started it and not finished it like 3 other times. So I'm sort of determined if I play it again, I'm actually gonna play it through to at least the end of the story. Certainly, not expecting to get every side quest done, but at least in the mainline stuff. So that was one that piqued my interest for sure.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I've been working through God of War still. Been enjoying that one. But my goal is to trying to, now that I've been dabbling a little bit, actually playing through games, which has been nice about having the Steam Deck, or even streaming my PC games up to the living room, is because I can really hunker down and focus on playing the game without like the distractions of my computer or notifications from this or that or whatever it is. And playing through Cyberpunk and God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn up in my living room has been fantastic. I can't recommend that enough, man. Like, I mean, the Steam Link functionality on things, if you have a good home internet setup, or home like Wi-Fi and whatnot, it really does work well. And I've been just continuing to stay impressed with how the technology works, and so
let's see, what other stuff have I been playing lately? It's been between being sick and then the usual work craziness. It's not always easy to remember, but let me browse back through here. I played a little bit of the Amazing American Circus, which is a essentially like a collectible card game. It's a paid game. There's no like deal or no microtransactions or anything, but you hire circus performers, and those circus performers have different cards that you can play that represent their different parts of their act. And your enemy, air quotes, is the audience, who has like a certain level of negativity until you sort of win them over, and you have to kind of win all of them over, and there's different aspects of how you do that, and they will throw tomatoes at your performers if they don't like what's happening, stuff like that. It was a really interesting way to use like card battle mechanics in a completely different sort of non-violent setting, which I thought was interesting. I played probably a couple, like 2 hours of it. I did, a few different cities, because you travel around a map, and there's, the bigger cities are much more challenging. So you got to kind of build up your performer skills before you tackle that. But that one was really interesting. I went through and I had pulled out several of the fighting games that I've played. I typically had played them on Xbox, and so I never really set them up on PC. So I was going through and doing that, and I have a nice arcade style fighting stick that I like to play those games on. So I was doing some of that. I played Soul Calibur 6 and a little bit of Tekken 7. So it's definitely interesting because I am not good at fighting games. I am not going to ever be competitive online or anything, but I enjoy there's a single player element to a lot of these fighting games, and in some cases a pretty decent one. Mortal Kombat 11 is probably one of the better ones in terms of the story, but I really actually liked Soul Calibur 6 as well, because you kind of create your own character with your own fighting style. Like, you use the pre-made character ones, but there's probably 20 or 30 different fighting styles that you can choose from, and then you take your character through the story, which is kind of fun. So I think there is more to the fighting games than just online competitive play, which I think is relatively unknown for a lot of folks.
Have you been playing? And you said you've been playing those where again? On
my PC. I played them previously on Xbox, but I wanted to get them all going on the PC, because then I can do more with them.
Have you been doing anything with them, like on your Steam Deck, or just?
I have not gotten to try them on the Steam Deck. I did install them, but that was part of getting them all going, was figuring out, like, okay, well, do I want to play them on the Steam Deck, or do I want to play them on the PC and stream them, over Steam Link? Because the graphics are certainly better, and you get higher frame rates that way. Yeah, but you obviously have a little bit of delay, so it's kind of the trade-off.
It's really been interesting. We had this chat in our Discord server a little bit. Is like, my Steam Deck, I feel like is my next console purchase, right? Like, that's because I have my Xbox One X that sits here next to my PC that I can do
the in-home streaming feature.
Well, I can do the in-home streaming feature, but I also have it hooked up to an Elgato HD60S, and it does a 1-to-1 pass-through.
Oh, so, right.
So yeah. I can do either. But what I find fascinating is, like, with Game Pass and with with being able to do that, like, I've had for a while there, before the Steam Deck thing, I was really strongly looking at getting an Xbox Series X and putting that down here, and then putting my One X up with my TV so I could have it, have something in both locations. But since then, I've gotten a PS4, and I've gotten a Switch, and I've gotten the Steam Deck, and I feel like, even though the PS4, the Xbox, and the Switch are in a sense kind of a generation old, the Switch not so much, because the Switch is still pretty relevant and probably will be for the next 5+ years.
That's certainly Nintendo's plan,
right? That's Nintendo's plan, at least. I just the desire to really do anything on any of the newer consoles is just not there. Like, there's still some Nintendo games that I want to pick up, and there's still some stuff on the PS4 that I definitely want to pick up and play and get my hands on, that I can only get there. But, like, so much of the modern stuff from both Microsoft and from Sony is just coming to the PC. And it still shocks me to think that, they've announced that Last of Us is coming to PC, or that the Spider-Man games are coming to PC, or, any number of those things. I mean, hell, we already got God of War, which was a big surprise. We got the, Horizon games. We got the, Death Stranding, and then we got Kingdom Hearts. You can get through the Epic Store, which still blows me away. You can do that. just a bunch of these like Sony games that would have been exclusive, are now available on the PC. And it seems like the PC is just going to continue to grow as like the central hub, right? Like you can get it on this console, or you can get it on the PC. You can get it on that console, or you can get it on the PC. And it's like that growing market of gamers is definitely on the PC. And I think the Steam Deck is just going to help to continue to push that. I think because the other day, we posted an article in our Discord here about how how do you get the PS Now working on your Steam Deck or whatever it was, PS Plus, and
the online portion, now that they've merged all of the PlayStation services into one subscription.
Yeah, which is weird because it's still not as comparable or as good, in my opinion, as Game Pass. Like, it shocks me, Well,
and it's more expensive. I think that's the part, that surprised me, at least, was, well, you're making something that's arguably inferior and you're charging more for it. Like, how on earth do you think that that's a good idea?
Right. Yeah, I mean, no doubt. So, it's definitely interesting to see. And speaking of, Microsoft, not necessarily with their Game Pass, but since they've acquired different studios, like who am I thinking of? Bethesda, right?
Yep.
ZeniMax,
Bethesda, Obsidian, In Exile.
Since they've done that, they've been doing a lot of, if you go through their insider portal on PC, they've been doing things where you can get like insider builds of Wolfenstein Enemy Territory or Quake 4 or these kinds of things, which is just telling me that Microsoft is continuing to push for access to these legacy games and older games and stuff like that through their platforms. And between them and Valve, they've really kind of shifted the market pretty heavily on the PC, towards the PC, it feels like. And I think Sony's logical choice was to follow suit. And which makes me chuckle is I feel like the last great console that's ever going to exist is Nintendo. They've held so true to themselves, and for better or worse, it seems that they're not budging on anything.
Yeah, they definitely have a strategy, and it is not involve the PC. That's very true.
Although I feel like they would probably make a lot of money if they did do something on the PC, but it seems like they've definitely felt that they don't need to. They've kept true to their exclusive status on so much of their stuff. It's a shame too, because it's like people want their stuff so much that it's far often the most pirated probably games out there. I mean how many people do you think have like pirated a ROM of just like Mario All-Stars or Mario World, or even just to put it on their phone or to put it wherever? I mean they've I would reckon they're probably the most pirated company in gaming out there, in my opinion. That's my argument, at least.
Yeah, well, and I think they like the control over the ecosystem. They like selling hardware. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think, from a business perspective, Sony and Microsoft have realized that there is very little crossover between PC gamers and console gamers, in that if you put a game on console, the PC players will just never play it. And so bringing those games to PC is just adding more sales, right? They're not losing anything by bringing those games to PC. They're just making more money off of a game they've already made, right? They have to spend, a little bit of money to port it, but they've done the majority of the work. So it's just free money, essentially, for them. And with Nintendo, like, Nintendo's obviously financially successful with the Switch, but the Wii U was a disaster. The GameCube, did okay. The Wii obviously was very successful. So they've had this boom bust cycle for a while now. And if I were a Nintendo shareholder, I would be saying, like, get out of the hardware business, stop, screwing around. And put your games, you have the stable of wonderful IP, get it all onto PC. Like you said, get those pirates who were stealing your stuff and have them buy the super cool Nintendo NES collection off Steam, and you're going to monetize those people and make even more money.
Right.
Well, and that's... so I think it's going to be coming whether they want it to or not, because people are going to force them to, is my thought. But
yeah, I think the greatest thing they ever did, aside from the Switch, was the Wii. I think when the Wii launched, that had all of the GameCube support, and it also had its new Wii stuff, which you could do all of the motion control and blah blah blah. And then they launched their online store through there. That was the best thing that they ever did. But then they utterly failed when they didn't do any form of account linking or any form of continuity between that and the Wii U. They right. Sort of did, like you could sort of transfer, but then it was just like, no, like you're essentially porting everything over from your Wii to your Wii U to make your Wii pretty much useless at this point.
You were dumping the Wii effectively,
which was a shame because, again, those earlier to mid models of the Wii, again, had that GameCube support. So it had all of the built-in hardware, to do essentially two consoles in one, which I thought was such a genius move. Like, we're launching a new console and we're going to bake in our own old console into it. And you're just like, huh, kind of genius. I can use last gen's controllers and this gen's controllers if I want to. Like, I could put my old GameCube memory cards into this thing and, keep on, trucking away. Genius. Then, the Wii U came around, and the Wii U was interesting because it was like that weird, like, upgrade thing that Nintendo just does, that they went through that, and I feel like they finally have stopped doing it because they've practically killed their mobile market in favor of their mobile console.
Right.
And, so it's like, so in the era of the Wii U, we had all of the variations of like 3DSs that came out, and the 3DSs and the 3DS XLs and the 2DSs and, all of the variations that they did, I felt like was just from that time period of the Wii U. And then like the Switch comes out, and it's like they finally were able to dump both of it, and now you have an actual account, and you have the subscription with the online stuff, and the store actually makes sense now, finally, for the first time ever, I feel like. But if they go to a new console after this, and none of those like online things port over, that's going to blow me away. And it still blows me away that like what was it, Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD are still like nowhere to be found on the Switch. And yet it wouldn't be much of an issue just to port those, right? Because they somehow were able to magically make Skyward Sword work on the Switch. I've played it, and I was really surprised at how well they converted a motion-controlled game over to the Switch. And yet, where is these HD remasters from their last-gen console on this new console? Nowhere to be found. Does that not strike like a curiosity with anybody, that in this digital world they can't digitally port that over? Am I lost here? Am I?
No. I mean, it seems absurd that they aren't. Well, I mean, Metroid Prime Trilogy is another one that people have been asking for on the Switch since the Switch came out almost, and. Why wouldn't you do that for your customers?
Yeah, Metroid Prime, even if you just put Metroid Prime out, like, people would go batshit. I'd buy it. I loved Metroid Prime. That game was great. It was so good.
Well, and that's where, it'll be really interesting to see sort of what what happens over the next several years that they're saying that the Switch is going to stick around, because they have no qualms about running old hardware until it just can't do it anymore, right? The poor 3DS was really aged by the time they finally ended support for it, and the Switch, was 2015 technology that they were selling as new a few years later, and we're still running off of that same very aged NVIDIA chipset.
Right. And, I mean, sure, the OLED Switch is nice and it's very pretty to look at. I'm not going to knock on that, but at the same time,
it's the same internals.
Right. And that's where I'm getting at with the whole PC marketplace. The Valve putting out this Steam Deck, and at a comparable price point, like if you were to ask a kid, if you were to put let them try like a Steam Deck or a Switch OLED side by side, and you loaded up the Steam Deck with like a whole bunch of games, same thing with like the Switch OLED. I don't know, like their entry point is about the same. If you look at their entry level, cost of a Steam Deck versus a Switch. So
yeah,
it's gonna make one wonder, like, hey, where do you want to be playing your games? Like, where do you want your ecosystem to be? And that, that's why I've definitely myself have been really focusing heavily on moving things back to Steam and modifying that there.
Well, and I think you touch on something that's really interesting, where the Switch versus the Steam Deck, given that the Steam Deck can run Switch games better than the Switch, right? Like, that just seems so absurd to me on some level. Mm-hmm. But that's the reality, right? Because the Steam Deck is pretty darn cutting edge in terms of its hardware, and the Switch is not. So it's going to be interesting to see what Valve does. They announced recently that they hit 4,000 games certified. They also announced recently that they are going to have everyone who has a reservation is going to get a Steam Deck this year, which was not the case, sort of previously. They weren't sure how many they were going to be able to ship, and they've been able to work out some of their manufacturing issues. So, Valve is firing on all cylinders, and that's not to say Nintendo isn't as well, but Valve has a pretty compelling offer. Now, the one big difference, though, is the Steam Deck is competitive price-wise at the bottom end of its offering, right? Mm-hmm. Because the cheapest Steam Deck is what, $350, $400, I think, and the Switch OLED's $330. So there is a premium to go to the Steam Deck, but it is a better, objectively a better, machine hardware wise, especially.
Yeah, $400 for a Steam Deck for like the basic version. I mean, that's not bad at all. I mean, like, if you're looking at getting your kid like a gaming laptop or a Steam Deck, I mean, I think the obvious answer is get the Steam Deck, because if you get a gaming laptop, then you got to buy the other peripherals that go with it. Maybe like another mouse or a controller and all these other things. But Steam Deck's got all that stuff kind of like built in. Plus, over time, I'm really looking forward to getting a few different docks for my Steam Deck, so I can kind of just like dock it somewhere else and then play it there. Downstairs, upstairs, maybe at the office. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so.
Well, I mean, hey, you got lunch breaks, you got downtime,
absolutely,
so absolutely. Well, and this is where I think Valve, made some really smart moves with the Steam Deck. It'll be interesting to see, though. One of the things you and I have talked a lot about is we have this amazing value in Game Pass, but unless you go to the cloud, you can't access it on the Steam Deck right now. And that would be amazing, is if we could, have the $15 a month Game Pass subscription on the Steam Deck somehow. Whether that's getting Ultimate through Steam directly or what, I don't know, but that sure would be a killer feature for the Steam Deck, I think, for a lot of folks.
So have you been doing any new modding to yours at all?
No, I kind of got it to a point where I've been happy with it. I found a dock an external dock that I could put an SSD in, and that's been running really well. My only complaint is it requires that the power be connected through the dock. If you try to run it off the battery, it can't. The Steam Deck doesn't have enough power to run the SSD, so that does limit me a little bit, because I have to shut it down if I want to take it somewhere. But my main use case is to be sitting in the family room playing, so it really hasn't been a big deal for me. I certainly understand for other people that might be a deal breaker. So yeah, I mean, I've been just kind of dorking around on the Steam Deck. Usually I'm sitting with the wife watching TV, and I'll get on there and, kind of play something that doesn't require a ton of brain power, because I'm half watching TV, half playing, kind of thing. But it's been a solid performer for sure.
All right.
And yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, here's the question. You're a family of gamers. Do you have any in the pipeline for the rest of the family?
No, because the kids all have, and my wife all have, gaming laptops. So we've already, made that investment. They've got 2060s and 2080s in their laptops. So they're not like the absolute latest and greatest bleeding edge, but they're certainly solid systems for gaming. So one of my kids tends to play on the Xbox most of the time anyway. They just kind of prefer that experience. And the other two are, very hardcore, on the handful of games that they play. One of the kids is all about Destiny and, Warframe and shooters like that. Well, Destiny doesn't run on the Steam Deck unless you, go in and put in Windows. And the other kid is kind of more casual, I would say. They play Terraria, they play Minecraft, they play a lot of those kind of things. And you can mod the Java version of Minecraft on the Steam Deck, but it's a hassle to do it on PC. It's even more of a pain in the butt to do it on the Steam Deck, right?
Sure.
Just because of the having to drop into the OS and everything. So hasn't been a priority there. Now, that said, I have set it up to where my Steam Deck has the family sharing turned on, and they have their profiles configured on the Steam Deck. So if they go and pick up the Steam Deck, they can tap an icon or navigate through the interface to change the active user to their account, and it'll even pull in all their saved games from the cloud. So it is available for them to use. But it's not something I've seen them do a whole lot with it. So I haven't made it a priority. What I am planning to do is, whenever we see the Steam Deck 2, which Valve has already said they're working on, I'll buy that and probably hand down the original Steam Deck to the kids at that point.
Nice. Yep. Well, I mean, it's definitely where I've been putting more of my attention. So I've definitely been enjoying it a lot more.
Well, and you mentioned, you've touched on this, but I guess maybe I want to dive into it a little bit more. You had said that you were doing a lot to get stuff into Steam, to run stuff from Steam. You had mentioned, to me off air that you had even sort of started thinking of Game Pass as demos for games that you might ultimately buy on Steam. And it's funny to me because that reflects exactly my experience, where I'm much more focused on staying in Valve's ecosystem, staying in Steam, because I know I can take it on the go with me.
Yeah, I mean,
I want.
and that's definitely part of the decision making process for sure for me. But the other part of it is that I feel like I continue to run into, and maybe this is where Game Pass's shine is starting to lose a little bit of its luster for me, is that I feel like I run into more issues, if you will, dealing with their platform on my PC. Steam's been around for a lot longer. It's funny. It's like Windows games tend to work better through Steam for me for some reason. I run into more issues with running games through like the Xbox app or like through like the way Windows has installed things. I just like things break more frequently.
Yeah. Well, Microsoft has made some weird choices early on, right? Where they're pushing everything through the Microsoft Store for a while. Then they moved it to the Xbox app, but the Xbox app still installs it through the Microsoft Store. And you've got sort of goofy encryption that was on there for a while, though they've since dropped that, I guess. But
but not in the best way. Like it's still kind of clunky because like now I can get to the files, but it's not really a true application. It's still an app. So the way Microsoft treats their games is still in the function of an app. And so the way that it handles that is still a little different. So like I can't, like now that I have access to all the game files, I can't really take that executable, say, and like launch it through Steam properly. It gets a little weird. And so it's not like I installed a game through the Epic Store and I have an executable here and I can just add that as a non-Steam game to whatever and then like launch it and it launches the game normally and all those kind of things. It's still a little bass backwards, if you will. And there was a weird thing with like Dead by Daylight, for example, trying to play it through the Windows version. It only it would stutter if I tried to use a mouse and keyboard, but it worked flawlessly if I picked up my controller. And then I installed the Epic version and I have no problems. So it's just like weird things like that where, I know that for the longest time, and I still do believe that Game Pass is probably the best thing in gaming out there for your money. If you're on a tight budget, but for me now, it's just a platform that I really feel like there's nothing, and I hesitate to say this, but like there may even be a chance where I might not even support Game Pass Ultimate in the future. I might just support the PC version because I hardly ever touch my Xbox. And so, like, I've had those thoughts. Because for me, xCloud, is an interesting piece of technology, but like game streaming services as a service, and I don't know if we're going to talk about this in our next, show in the news, but, there's a rumor about Stadia, and, if you have Game Pass Ultimate or whatever it is, you get the xCloud stuff. And I think, I wonder how much of that is just like a full, like, I'd really like to see the numbers, like I'd really like to see, what is the adoption rate of cloud gaming, if you will. Demographic wise, like, from like the East Coast, West Coast side of things where you might have better internet in like the cities, to like the more rural areas of our country, like where does that, where do you see that being applied? So It's just something curious I've been thinking about. But yeah, I feel that Game Pass for me is I don't touch it nearly as often since I've gotten my Steam Deck. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, and I think that's where Microsoft, it would behoove them, since they're already putting their games on Steam, to work something out with Valve where Game Pass subscribers can get the content through Steam if they choose.
Right. Well, I mean, which is funny because the EA Play or whatever it is a subscription service on Steam. And as a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, I also get access to EA Play stuff through the Xbox app. But and that, I mean, that's a whole other thing. EA's apps are so freaking like there's
terrible.
Yeah, it's oh god, I could go on and on about that, but I'll save you guys. but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting experience, and I would love to see some kind of, because I think Valve wouldn't care, because people were talking about like, well, what if Valve did a subscription service? I was like, Valve's never going to do a subscription service. It makes no sense for them to do a subscription service. They make so much money as it is. Like they have no need to offer a subscription service. Like it just doesn't. I just don't think that's something that they would do. Like, or something that, I don't know. I could get proven wrong. Maybe they do something, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like the best thing to do is a partnership where Microsoft offers their Game Pass stuff through Steam, and then you can download, all of that same stuff through Steam instead. Because I've got almost over 2,000 games now through Steam alone. I'm sure you do as well. I'm sure you have way more than that. And
I have several.
Yeah. I have not a few. Yeah. And so I think people, wanting to kind of play where their friends are, it's kind of like the Xbox thing, right? Like, people like playing on Xbox because that's where their friends are. Or people like playing on PlayStation for the same reason. That's where their friends are. I like playing on PC because that's where my friends are, but I really like playing through Steam because that's where my games are. And or the ease of which I can add non-Steam games to it and still use Steam as my like front end, if you will.
Launcher.
Yeah.
I would say one thing in Valve's favor with Steam is that Steam games are also generally pretty easy to get going for multiplayer. And that is not always the case with Xbox. Like, we've had no end of problems with Xbox voice chat on PC.
Oh yeah.
For example, and on I guess we're not really using Valve's voice chat, but we're using Discord, and that makes it fairly easy to do voice chat. So that's certainly something I think. But even just like getting into games, launching games for multiplayer, finding other players, for the most part, it just works with Steam. Where you get into some of these other platforms, or either the developer makes their own thing or whatever, it just isn't quite as reliable, I've found.
Well,
I don't know if you feel the same.
And I do, and for what it's worth, in our next show, we're going to talk about Discord coming to Xbox, probably for that very reason.
Yeah, well, and Microsoft did such a goofy implementation where they're doing like a VPN tunnel to connect to the other players. And that's part of why I think it's so flaky, because they've just like layered a bunch of complexity on it versus just, open up a connection and start chatting. But yeah, I mean, Discord just works for the most part. So that makes sense that they would add it.
Yes, indeedy. Because I'm actually surprised, that Valve's tried very hard with their social stuff, and I think that it's definitely come a long way, but it might be almost a little too late. If they had the kind of features that they do now before Discord came around, I think they would have, stolen the show for sure. Because, they have all the chat room stuff now. They have all of, like, the group and built-in forums and, all kinds of things now on their platform. I mean, even OWGG, we have a group there, and there's totally like we could add voice channels and chat channels. And we could essentially build a Discord in Steam if we wanted to, but you know, Discord's already here, man.
Yeah, well, and Discord has a whole ecosystem around it in terms of bots, in terms of, you know, add-on features and things like that. And Valve just doesn't. That, you know, that it's basically whatever Valve has offered, and that's kind of all you get. And so it's a very different experience, kind of overall. I do wonder if Valve, you know, is I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, would Valve just buy Discord and call it a day?
I mean, in my opinion, I feel like maybe if Valve did that, that might be an interesting thing, because like I'm as we're talking here, I opened up our OtherWorldsGG group chat and I'm looking at the settings for it, and I mean, like, there's permissions and roles and like channels and, you know, all that stuff. And you can also stream on Steam, like you can in Discord. Not in like the voice channels like you can in Discord, but like, you know, I can stream my gameplay to Steam. Yeah, and that's why I think the Steam overlay thing is such a huge thing, or being able to add your games to Steam is such a huge thing, because of the way it, you know, it allows you to do that. Of course, Discord lets you do the hook thing, so like, you know, it knows the application stuff, and so it's a little bit agnostic to where you're playing your games. But I don't know. Like, it was interesting to find out that Gilded got bought by, what was it, Roblox?
Yep. Yeah, Roblox, of all people.
With freaking bonkers.
Yeah.
You know, and so Discord having a partnership with Sony, and now
and
Microsoft, but I don't think you can get Discord on PlayStation, right?
Correct. You can link your Discord profile, your Discord account, to your PlayStation account and get presence, so it'll show what games you're playing.
Well, same with Discord, or same with Microsoft, but yeah, right.
But
soon
now Microsoft's adding the chat, which is the big difference.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts, dude. I don't know, like, for what it's worth, even though I've been increasing my presence back into Steam again, I feel like it's, you know, 2006 all over again. You know, I still appreciate what Microsoft has done for the PC market, and I love what Valve has done for the PC market. And I think that if we're going to start seeing more integrations with Discord into Xbox, I'd love to see more integrations with Xbox into Steam. Like, let me link my subscription to my Steam account, and I think I would still pay for it at that point. I would gladly pay for the Game Pass Ultimate experience if I could link it to Steam and just, you know, get all my games through Steam via that subscription. 100%. So, anyway. Well, I think, unless you've got anything else, I think that might wrap it up for us.
No, I think that's been a neat kind of discussion, and we kind of went all over the place, but I think we covered some really cool stuff, so.
Yeah, it was good to get it out of our system, I think. So, with having said all that, if you want to enjoy more of these random ramblings and all of these topics that we've had, come on over to our Discord server at discord.otherworlds.gg. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. This has been episode number 69.
Yeah.
Nice.